I'm a retailer at heart, so of course I love this. Everybody should be in retail, and everybody should figure out how to do subscription.
Are there businesses out there that you think should be thinking about subscription?
All of them.
So Gary, thanks again. As we're super bullish and integrated in the subscription space, we believe in direct-to-consumer subscriptions. So I wanted to get your feeling on it. I know in your episode 81, 2015, you talked about investing in Birchbox, BarkBox, which I know BarkBox is having a ton of success, and you were super bullish on it then. Now we're 5 years later. How's your feeling on it?
I was first check-in on second check-in on Birchbox, and one of the first 3 or 4 checks into BarkBox. I also started and incubated something called FaithBox.
Yep. At our conference. We spoke at our conference.
Yeah, he's good people. Here's what I would say. I'm a humongous fan of reoccurring business models. They work for a million different reasons. It comes down to operations. If you're able to then convert them to do other things using the box as the gateway, and you're able to consistently keep the box a huge value for what people paid for it, with the way customer acquisition can be done in a modern internet world, I am a huge fan of the model.
Same with us. I think it's about building that relationship too, right? In a lot of your talks, I hear you give advice about just communicating with your community and your customers and keeping that relationship going. And with the subscription box or any direct-to-consumer subscription, you got to build that relationship. It's like less 100%. About calling them a subscriber. I like to say you built a relationship with the consumer. And we're starting to see more brands pivot to the model. So like Burger King introducing a $5 a month coffee club, I think works well because it allows the consumer to come in and get coffee, and then they're hoping to upsell them on something else, right?
The psychology behind this has been proven a long time ago, right? What was it? Columbia House? Thank you. Yeah. This is a boring conversation, and that's a huge compliment to everybody who's listening to it, because if you're interested in the space is 100% right. No different than real estate or Wall Street. There are things that are so obviously proven. Now the question is, are you good at it? For everybody listening, let me make this very simple. A subscription box business, especially when you're smart enough to 2.0 and 3.0 and build a brand on top of it and do other things. But even as itself, if your great ambition is to fill a box, around candy at candybox.com for the rest of your life, you will build a monster business in perpetuity if you're good enough at sourcing new candies from South Korea and Peru and this and that. If you're able to build a big enough list that you gives you leverage that you can go to Nestle's and Mars and other smaller versions to make an exclusive candy. If your content is very charismatic and is worth watching once a week, even when the box isn't coming, the unwrapping, forever. And now replace candy with flowers and t-shirts and bananas and wine and everything else in perpetuity, it will work. Right. The reason it doesn't work is a lot of people start companies that are overfunded, their CAC and LTV numbers are underwater, and then by box 4, the stuff that's coming sucks. Right. Oh, and by the way, you misinterpreted the data and you're sitting with inventory on the other stuff. Yep. And you're not putting out content, and you're not contemporary, and you don't know how to market on Spotify and TikTok and Amazon Fire Stick and Facebook and Instagram and Google and pre-roll and buy Remnant TV and do events and a carnival and influencer marketing, like the end.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
So,
it's 100% going to work, but it's only going to work for the 5% that are good at it.
Yeah, and execute.
You know what else works? Being an NBA player. Have the talent and put in the work to be an NBA player. Yeah. You know what else works? Being a supermodel. Great business. How do you do it? Be gifted with talent in that arena and then really actually putting in a ton of work.
And some brands though so I like to think about also just subscriptions as a whole. So a retail business pivoting to the model, introducing a new revenue. Are there businesses out there that you think should be thinking about subscription?
All of them.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to hear you say. Yeah,
that's the truth. And Chris, you know me probably well enough, and if anybody who's listening knows me, I'm not here to pander to you. I don't give a shit about you. I'm trying to be historically correct. The answer is everyone. If you're the New York Post and you're a newspaper and internet company, having a post box you figured out is around gossip or news or tchotchkes of some sort, or starting a New York Post, Cheese of the Month club and using your old print to DR people in. The answer is everybody. Everybody should be in retail, and everybody should figure out how to do subscription. And oh, by the way, it's hard. It's hard to keep somebody for 8 years, which means you've given them 96 unique experiences that every time it shows up, it reminds them they should unsubscribe, right? And so is it being consumed enough? Do they value it in comparison to how they can buy? Did you hit it so perfectly that they don't want to cancel you after a while because the discovery and the fun is over and now they understand it and they just want to buy what they want to buy, right?
And it's important to look at the data too and like notice like when's the average box churn? What can we do on month 7 so that they're not churning on month 8? But you're absolutely right. Like you got to put the work in, you got to dedicate to it.
You got to run a business.
Yeah, you got to run a business.
But good news, the model works, especially if you can build a brand on top of it into events and to media, especially if you can convert yourself into a full-time retailer where the products are available from you after the fact. You start building sustainable 3, 4, 5, 6 tiers of revenue. You can amortize out certain parts of it. Now you really got something.
So right now, e-commerce is like 15 to 17% of all retail sales. Forget what's happened with Corona. I mean, that's changing the landscape a little bit. What do you see for the future? How do you see the percentage growing based on Gen Z?
Well, look, I understand. Look, that jump from 12 to 15 to 17 probably was 20 to 30% slower than I anticipated when it was at 12. And now I think, Corona, like 30 is going to get here faster because of it. And now the question is that 7 years from now? Is that 13 years from now where it would have been, instead of 7, it would have been 11, instead of 13, it would have been 20? Are we looking at even bigger numbers? I think you have to be half, insane to think that we're not going to see the massive acceleration of e-com post this, that whole 21 days to create a new habit, whether it's 21 days or 14 or 63. I can promise you right now, an uncomfortable amount of new behavior has been created because of the coronavirus. And a lot of it will benefit people that are in e-commerce.
Now, thinking about e-commerce, with small boutiques, it makes sense. How do you think like a restaurant or a brand that's typically not in e-commerce, how could they build some sort of e-commerce presence?
By selling things that theoretically they sell in 4 walls. A restaurant can start appetizer box. There's one for you. They can start ingredient box. Or they can name the box after the restaurant and then say each month, whether it's an actual frozen dish version, whether it's something that doesn't go bad, whether it's the components of the ingredients, the salts, the butters that we use, or whether it's an apron or a fork or thing. All things restaurant, 12 months a year. Some months you'll get a wooden spoon you can't live without. Other months you'll get salt, pepper, and butter that we use at the restaurant. Other months you'll actually get an appetizer that we're putting on the menu in a year. You love restaurant culture so much, you should be part of it. And now if you're listening in your restaurant, you're like, yeah, but how big can that be? Well, listen, I know the restaurant business pretty well. I just have so many people in it. I'm in it in a lot of ways in separate investments. An extra 500 people on a list like that where you're actually making margin. You're not an internet startup company. Let's play it out. That could, say you're making an extra 20, you're making $20 on that box at 500 people a month, that matters to a restaurant's margins. Let me remind you of something else. When that person gets that box, it reminds them of your restaurant. So you're making money to stay top of mind.
Stay in front of them.
So all of a sudden, your average customer comes to you 2.4 times a year. Now they're at 3.1. So now you've made money twice. This is about business strategy.
And what about not even just box? What if the chef does digital sort of cooking sessions? You subscribe to their channel, $9.99 a month, right? There's all the digital.
Yeah, now you're getting into talent. More people can be successful at making a box and putting stuff in it than being so talented on camera that people will pay to get their content. You're talking about a very small group.
Right.
I watch all these business hucksters try to charge for their content, and they have to compete against me, who's better than a lot of them, who's free. There's 8 trillion good pieces of food content on YouTube right now for free, alone, just YouTube. Gonna be hard to get to a place where you're $10. Now, if you create something called the Content and Counter Club, so play with me here, I'm getting creative. A lot of people like to eat at the counter, right? At the bar, if you're that kind of place. You create something called Counter and Content Club, the 3 C's. What that is you pay $9.99 a month. And what you get is you get exclusive paywall content from the chef, the bartender, the owner. And on top of that, you get a 15% discount on anything you buy, food and beverage at the bar anytime. Now you got something interesting brewing.
Or exclusive bookings, reservations, you get first priority.
Right.
Well, Maze did that with the tickets, right? They started a membership for their ticket sales and it gave them discounts on memorabilia.
Or access or the wine clubs that, the wine events that they do in the back room. Look, it's creativity and effort.
Yeah.
Creativity and effort.
And I think too that with the membership, it's that relationship. So if I'm thinking about going to dinner somewhere, I might be like, you know what? I'm a member here. I feel like I'm exclusive.
Oh, it's so fun. Yeah. People are douchey. They love coming in and be like, oh, I'm a counter and content member.
Yeah.
Take my, people love to tattoo and tribe up and be part of herds and be VIP and a little velvet rope. Of course. Let's not get it twisted. And that's for a more premium establishment. Then you got the casual establishment where it becomes a norm culture, right? And all the bartenders know your name. And humans are easy.
I'm seeing too the Gen Z, which I like. saw where it was like ZERO, like they own zero ownership, right? And they're just like think about Microsoft Office. 5 years ago, you're paying $500 for it. You might lie and say you're a student and get it for like $115, but now you just pay this monthly fee for it. And so I think we're seeing this Gen Zs, they're leasing cars, they're renting.
They're smart.
Yeah.
They're math-based. It's called smart.
Saving
I feel bad for millennials. They didn't play it right. And this is the macro. There's unlimited millennials crushing it. And when I say crushing it, it's not like, go work and burn yourself out and make money. I'm talking about being happy. To me, crushing happiness in the framework of entrepreneurship is a really powerful conversation. This isn't about burning yourself out, but also if you love what you do, like I do, you're going to find yourself working 13 hours a day.
Right. It's not the money. It's just what you love, what you're doing. 100%. It's
100%. Yeah, I'm very grateful to be on here. And I would say for people listening, let's call it what it is. There's a very specific group of individuals that would be listening to this. Or if you're my fans and you found this, I'm a retailer at heart. So of course I love this. I love this is more fun to me to jam with you on
100%.
than most. I love it. I love retail. I love the challenge. I have a Gary Vee Wine of the Month club my dad sells. Yeah. It's a challenge each month to come up with great new stuff, especially now that we have this wine text thing. We have this new texting thing called wine text, where you get a text. It's like Groupon, but you just reply with a number. It's crushing, and so all of a sudden, like, how do we amp up the Gary Vee Wine Club? Because you want to bring value. And it's just like, it's a challenge because now you're into year 4 and now you're into 48, deliveries. And I saw somebody tweet like the other day, like, unsubscribe from the Gary Vee Wine Club. Don't feel like his heart's in it. And like, I'm like, am I mailing in my videos? Like, why does he feel that? Like, it's a real game.
Are you giving them exclusive access to maybe wines that they couldn't get at the retail shop?
Yes.
Access,
yes. And the best price, it's stupid. I think it's like $65 delivered and getting $100 worth of wine if you bought it anywhere else, minimally. And I make a video and I'm funny and smart and know my wine and you're trying new stuff. We really have experts in me with great palates that know how to find shit. And so it's a monster, but guess what? After you don't drink enough wine and you've got your 9th shipment and you look at it, no different than makeup with Birchbox, no different than anything else. You look at it and you're like, wait a minute, do I really, actually had another idea. I wonder if we should do a half bottle of wine in the month club. So you just get a half a bottle.
Yes, one glass. Actually, you could send them
it's 3 glasses. But all of a sudden doesn't add up as much. Might be fun. I actually like that idea.
It's funny. My dad owned Red Wagon Wine Shop.
Is that true?
Yeah, the Red Wagon Wine Shop. And my dad, very humble, quiet guy. I worked there. I was like the bottle boy, and I used to make sure the labels in the cooler were all facing out.
I love that we have that relation. Like that's. I'm literally texting my team.
Yeah.
Half bottles. Let's talk. I have a big idea.
Love it.
So I like to do it. And and this is a very meta thing. I would argue, try to pontificate on this. I really hope that everybody's listening realizes business is about ideas and execution. And I think some people have great execution, some people have great ideas. And then, I genuinely believe the reason I get to have these humbling interactions where people admire me is, I think I have good intent and I think I'm admired more for my humanity. But like on the business side, like, you're doing well, you're good at what you do. It's ideas and execution.
Right.
And I think that, when I see, I'm thinking about this one gal I'm about to do some business with, she just ideas and execution, and just so obvious that she will be a winner in life. And I would tell you right now, if you're listening, if you know you're good at one or the other, find a way to make it safe for the other thing to do well. If you're a great ideas person, hire an operator and make her or him feel comfortable, not an enemy to you. If you're great at operations, realize that you can only squeeze a nickel so hard. You're going to need to come up with ideas that bring in quarters.
That makes sense. And it goes back to like the ideas are cheap, right? So like execution is so important.
Yes, I have a sign that in my office that says ideas are shit, and then somebody got upset with it and they were right. My context for that statement was, if you don't execute on them, everybody has ideas.
Right.
But at the same token, execution on bad ideas is garbage.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a huge waste of time because you're going to think you're doing well, and then you're going to wake up and realize you're not. And by the way, a lot of boxes went through that, right?
Time is money.
What's going on with the box world from your perspective? I'm sorry to kind of like flip the switch on you, but like I'm trying to extract some value here in the last 5 minutes. What do you see? What's interesting?
So we're seeing that we're starting to see big brands that are starting to pivot to the model because it makes sense. It's Discover Delight. The brands that have the replenishment model, Dollar Shave Club, HelloFresh, Blue Apron, they're seeing long lifetime value because it's a replenishable product. On the sub side, Discover Delight, I'm seeing the brands that are quarterly are seeing more success. It's coming quarterly instead of monthly.
Smart.
And I believe it's because like people will cancel because they got product fatigue, they got too much stuff, they can't afford it, and putting it on a quarterly model allows for that, not getting it so often. And we're just seeing almost 150% increase in LTV when the subscription's quarterly versus monthly. So I think that you're going to continue to see it grow. I think it's plateauing a little bit more than it was from like when Birchbox, when you were invested, it was like a rocket ship.
That was on fire.
It's like everything though. It's going to plateau a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, look, they could have built a monster, and BarkBox has. They were so good at Facebook acquisition.
Right.
The idea was right, but then you have to convert it into sustainability, not just raising capital.
Birchbox too, they made a mistake, I believe, because they essentially became a sales rep for Altas and Amazon because they were giving them a sample and then they were going on Amazon and getting the product for cheaper potentially.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is it's hard when you're two incredibly bright young women from Harvard Business School with a great idea to compete with Amazon and Sephora right away. What they needed to do, in my opinion, was a million different things. And I don't have every detail, but the bottom line is they are a story, in my opinion, of a lot of stories, which was a lot of capital usually leads to bad decisions, not good decisions. I promise you the two of them, because they're monsters, incredible women. Smart, if they started a family business, they would have gone on to build a monster. But capital can get you caught because you start getting a little.
Listen, we've built all of our businesses with zero capital, haven't borrowed a dollar, and just hustled it away. You get scrappy, and you look at costs differently when you don't have a lot of money to spend on it. I agree with you 100%.
I'm just really grateful to be on this call because I really associate with the listener. You know, I'm a retailer.
For sure.
Like I'll go to the grave on that. I know I'm a marketer. I'm starting to realize I'm a storyteller, AKA when I make the biggest films and TV shows in the world, that won't be confusing to me. I get that. That's in my brain now, you know, but God, I'm a retailer.
Gary, I'm grateful for you being on. I love the way you inspire everybody. I'm on the push for happiness, believe in everything you do. So appreciate everything and hope we can connect again.
Thank you so much, man. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We'll talk soon.
Okay, cool.
Bye-bye.